Hello Static Junkies, Mideilty here, and today I'm doing a review on Grounded. I've got my notes on my phone, and the way I break down reviews is first, the gameplay, second, the story, third, the Mideilty factor, the reason I wanted to play this game in the first place, and fourth, the music, which for me is a big part of a game, especially a survival game. Now, when it comes to gameplay, leveling up is a kind of thing. It's kind of a thing. There's these things called perks, which are called mutations, but they're perks, right? And kind of like a Call of Duty loadout, you can only have so many perks equipped at a time. And I don't know if the game starts with 2 or 1 slots, but as I'm saying 2 and 1 slots, you can actually increase the amount of slots to hold even more perks. These perks are acquired from killing bosses, killing tons of hostile or neutral to hostile when you start hitting them enemies with a certain weapon, and etc. It's like that type of idea. Problem is though, when it comes to mutation slots, there is a way to increase it, and that is with milk molars, which are like Flintstone gummies. You break down these milk molars and golden milk molars, and there's 2 different currencies of basically passive upgrades. So first one is milk molars, which is like your choice. You get to use your milk molars to increase your health, your stamina, how fast your hunger and thirst drain, and how many slots you get for mutation, right? Which is the thing I went through first, maxing it out to 5 mutation slots. When I got to this though, it realized that the golden milk molars are more for convenience, right? So it's not something for survivability, but it's like, you know, having higher arrow stacks, right? So you can save up inventory space. Same thing for consumable stacks, same thing for resource stacks. I'm trying to think if there was anything else besides those 3. I feel like there was a 4th one, but I'm just not remembering for some reason. When it comes to mutations though, you have the 2 slots you stay at, or the 1, right? That go to 5. What you realize is there's perks like Natural Explorer, which you get from basically exploring parts on the map, and they show as landmarks, right? Kind of like the XP you get when you explore a town in Skyrim. That fully upgraded is a 60% boost to walking and running. So realistically, you're never going to take it off ever. And the other one that you're probably never going to take off is Cardio Fan, which you get the perk by basically draining your meter all the way down and then increasing it again and doing that over and over again, where it's a full to fully depleted, right? That's the idea. And that increases your stamina regeneration as well as the time it takes for your stamina to regenerate. So you're probably never going to get rid of that. Another thing you're probably never going to get rid of is Parry Master, which means that when you parry with a shield, it first off does not take stamina, which usually blocking a shield does, kind of like in Dark Souls. And second, it does not stagger you and increase your poise meter, which is like a meter with a shield on it, which is kind of like Sekiro, where if your shield's broken, you'll be launched on the ground and they'll start attacking you and you can't do anything because you're just stuck in an animation of getting back up again, right? So you're not taking that off. And so you get to a point where it's like, okay, I have 3 perks that I probably will never swap out besides Natural Explorer to Merton, which is the way to swim faster, right? Because Natural Explorer wouldn't make sense if swimming doesn't apply to Natural Explorer. It's another perk called Merton. So versus that, there's only like 2 slots to play with. And versus all the perks in the game, the probability of them actually helping you is very low. Most of the mutations are just straight up not useful. Like the one for sharpshooter that says pin, right? I thought it was like a damage thing, but no, it's pinning them. It's like they won't move, right? And the percentage of me specifically, I don't know the percentage, but that barely happened. And when they did get pinned, I never noticed it because I realized later that the pin is only 2 seconds. And when you're attacking a bunch of things, it's actually kind of hard because it's not like there's any like visual animations to show that they're pinned for 2 seconds, because I swear it's shorter than that. And then when it comes to the bow, I realized that the AI you could cheese super bad in the game, and I just did that because I realized, you know, the idea of getting hurt and then eating was just such an annoyance to me, specifically knowing that the hunger and thirst meters drain very fast unless you start upgrading it via milk molar buff, right? And even then, when you have canteens, food is always going to be an issue and is always going to drain faster, specifically if you are, I think, getting hurt. I think the idea of getting hurt, I'm pretty sure, feels like it's draining faster when you regen health, etc. Or when you're running, right? So it drains very fast in the beginning of the game, to the point where I've actually almost died from hunger and thirst, or I think I have died from thirst one time, because it was in the underwater area where basically like if I drank unfiltered water, it would result in my hunger draining, kind of like a poison debuff on my hunger, and then I would have just died from hunger, because there's a bunch of areas in this game where food and water are very scarce. In the basic area that you're either abundant, you can start farming, you start making that, but the idea where you start going to areas to get the chips and you start killing bosses, or you're trying to go in areas that are very dangerous and don't have much life, it's not that too much of an issue later in the game, but in the beginning, I do think it's kind of a pro. I know you might thought I was going to be complaining about it, but I thought it was actually kind of interesting, because in most games I think of it as a side thing, something that's kind of in the side of my head, but in this it was like right in front of my face. I could not just be like, oh, it's another annoyance. I was like, oh, this is an actual part of the game. I need to actually do this, and it will actually prevent me from playing the game if I do not do these, because they drain so fast. Like, I have to actively be like, okay, I need to get food, because I know with my one aphid that I have and like the 2 water droplet canteens, it will not last me enough from going from this part of the map to this part of the map. And realistically, in that part of the map, let's say the sandbox or something, I know there's not going to be food and water in that area that's abundant enough after cutting the grass or doing something, let's say, that we did with my friend. But if it was a solo world, probably not. It probably would have been a lot better experience if you're doing solo with hunger and thirst builds than it was when there's 2 people trying not to die from hunger and thirst. Specifically knowing that when you die, your equipment takes a damage hit. So like if you're holding your equipment, you have your armor and you die, you drop your backpack with all your stuff. You can change this in the settings, I believe, of course. I think so. And then your equipment stays with you, so you can get that stuff a little bit easier, because you can fight the stuff that your backpack might have been near, like let's say wolf spiders or ant lions, stuff like that. But it does take a hit, so you do not want to really die in the game, because resources to upgrade those materials can be costly, and they can take just even more time of the endless cycle of grinding to maintain your equipment and get better equipment. When it comes to upgrading your equipment, though, that is kind of an issue when it comes to multiple people in a server, because the materials are finite till the very end of the game, like last 5-ish hours of my 99-hour and 57-minute playthrough. And so because of that, you really probably are going to want to save up all your materials until you get to like tier 3 equipment, and then really make sure which one you're going to want to put all your materials in, so that you don't run out of materials, because you probably won't even have enough to get the maximum materials, because you get the late game hammer very late in the game to break basically the materials. So it's kind of like you have 3 tiers of these tools, you have 3 tiers of weapons and equipment, right? And they both stack with each other. You need the hammer to break this to get this, and you need another hammer to do this, you need another axe to get this, etc. It's very much that way of progression where tools and equipment, the levels really do naturally progress to the next one. You cannot have, let's say, level 1 gear and then have tier 3 equipment. It's just not going to happen. The way to make it not finite, right, infinite materials, is by basically killing bugs. But the problem is you get this recipe at the very, very like late game-ish, I will say. And also, when it comes to middle and single tier, I actually think it was good. I think grinding for bugs, because they're so abundant, it's fine. But when it gets to the last, like upgrading tier, the drop rates are just so abysmal and slow that realistically, you're only going to want to farm enough to upgrade your material for maybe 1 weapon. But when it comes to upgrading for multiple weapons, you're never going to want to do that. So it really just kind of takes away from the idea of experimenting with weapons. It's not like an Elden Ring where you actually do get enough smithing stones and enchanted smithing stones to at least upgrade maybe 2 or 3 weapons in the game when you are trying to like actually naturally progress. Because the problem with Grounded is that versus you getting that stuff in a linear path, there's so much backtracking that you don't want to do to break up all those supreme marble and supreme quartzite blocks that give you the end game loot, that you kind of just forget where they are and you have to use a map. For me, I straight up just use the Grounded map. It's like an interactive map where you can track points for milk molars and golden milk molars, but that made everything so much easier. And I recommend anybody on their playthrough to use that because your experience will be a lot shorter. Mine was still 99 hours, so just keep that in mind if you don't want to spend 200 hours naturally trying to find these things without any guide whatsoever. And yeah, but for the gameplay, I had a good time. I just think there's some multiplayer issues that are the real big problems of the game. If you're a host, you're having the greatest time on earth. But if you're a friend who is unlucky enough to be playing not as the host like my friend Tigress was, they were having huge issues with rubber banding, desync, parrying issues, which is impossible. They just could not parry at all until some days where it's very good, some days it wasn't very good. It just felt like a roll of the dice when it comes to, will I actually be able to fight properly in this game? Same thing with water, like weird clipping issues of rubber banding on water where like he's trying to get on lily pads and they'll just rubber back straight into water, almost like the water's glue is a good example. I feel like the multiplayer is a big aspect of this game. So with me having a host, my experience was 100, 200 times better when I had a friend I was playing with. I would never have been in this game if I didn't have a friend playing with me, especially when I got frustrated so much with the upgrade path and also how you get all the good stuff very late game, like refrigerators and magic staffs. And I felt like there could have been a better way to kind of progress it so that some of the stuff in the late game was more towards the mid game, where the mid game just felt like a grind fest of us building this giant zipline tower, which you'll see right now, and connecting that to the map everywhere, which was fun when it was done, but it was not fun building it at all. It was more of like, okay, this is just grinding to build this versus me, you know, building a nice little like house area and making sure to decorate it. It was not like that. It was just like, okay, I don't want to keep walking back and forth getting these materials that make me want to rip my eyes out. I'm going to build these zip lines to get to these areas very quickly. And now, after looking at ways to make the towers, I just realized you could have used clay, which is so much more abundant. And I was just like, man, why did I not think of that? So don't do what I did. We're using like stems, scaffolding, and grass. Please go the way of smarter people than I was and look at some YouTubers that I put in the description that make the clay zipline tower. Oh my God, I wish I did that so much sooner. I hope you do that. The game would be less frustrating for you, so please do it that way. Anyway, when it comes to the story though, the story is cute. I like the Pixar-like feeling. I like the kind of Stranger Things music in the beginning. I like the idea of having fully voice-acted lines. The one thing I don't like is the idea of some of the pieces of paper being recipes, specifically if you miss them, like the refrigerator. Like I missed it and I was just like, I don't want to go back and get it. We're like 5 minutes before the last defense, like the last mission on the game. I'm just going to keep going. When it comes to just story and notes, loved it. I love story building. I love story. I love reading. It's fine. The Mideilty factor why I love this game is because it's the Honey I Shrunk the Kids factor. You know, it's the Minecraft Honey That Shrunk the Kids, Ant Boy, Just Ant. Those movies I loved so much as a kid. And so the fact that, you know, here I am, 22 years old, and I just like can finally play a game that's based on those types of movies that I enjoyed so much brings me a lot of happiness. Okay. So I like this game for those factors. And I think that's the reason why I beat it. 'Cause, you know, the story was good and I wanted to see the end of the story enough that it brought me through kind of the horrible gameplay things that I was having an issue with, and like the grinding that felt not as rewarding as other grinding I've done, right? I was just like, man, I really want to get the good ending. So we got the good ending. The game is over. The story was satisfying. I like the little cute animation in the beginning and the end of the game. So yeah, no, it was definitely the Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and that being an Ants and Ant Boy. Those movies were a big factor of why I played this game in the first place. Also, it being on Game Pass. Last is the music. Now, this is kind of just the fun thing because I love music and I love game OSTs. And so the music I'm going to talk about is night-based music that's playing right now. This music's relaxing. You can sleep to it. To be honest, though, this music's a little too relaxing because when I'm playing late night playing this game, I like fall asleep because I'm like getting really tired from the soothing night-based music. The sandbox theme I liked as well. That's playing right now. It's kind of Blade Runner-y, kind of Vangelis vibes. Kind of like that Selena string synthesizer I'm showing right now. But This game for me is swimming in sevens. I'm gonna give it a 7.3 out of 10. Okay, 7.3 out of 10. Feel like the story was cute, but a lot of the gameplay I wouldn't keep doing if it wasn't due to multiplayer. And if it wasn't due to the fact that I loved the story setting so much, I wouldn't have been doing all the mindless grinding that felt just kind of like a way of padding the game out when this game could have been a lot shorter and a lot more enjoyable. Well, that's all I got. If you have any comments sharing your experiences in the game, I would love to learn about them. I'd love to read about them. As for liking the video, that always helps, so please like the video. Please subscribe if you like this content, if you want to see different types of content than just reviews, because I kind of do a mixture of content on this channel. And I'll see you in the static.